Okay, so I think the participant number is kind of staying flat, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ebonee Mahone-Todman. I am at Marietta High School here outside of Metro Atlanta. I'm joined today by my co-host, Christy Conley from North Oconee High School. And so we are going to talk today about what it means to be a counselor at a large public school. Just to give you all a little background on who we are. I am, this is my 21st year as a college counselor. I've served in CBOs and public schools only. So I'm one of the very few college counselors that has not done admissions actually in the course of my career. And so we are really excited about meeting you all today and obviously sharing some of the program highlights that we have, some of our best practices, a couple of housekeeping things. We will utilize the Q&A box throughout the session. So if you all want to, as questions come up, want to ask us specifically about our programs, or if you all have just general questions, you can pop those in the Q&A box. And at the end, we'll kind of go through some of those. Also, just so that you all know, this is webinar style. I know this is the first session of the conference, so this session is webinar style. So that means that we cannot see you all, but you all can see us. Feel free to utilize the chat box if there are, just things that you would like to comment on. We will share some contact information there as well. But again, if you do have questions, if you'll pop those into the Q&A box, we will be utilizing that throughout the session. So we have a couple of poll questions that we wanted to throw out to the group just to kind of get a feel for who is here with us today and make sure that we are, spending some time looking at the options that you all have through the things that we have or some of the things that we are doing. Oh, okay. I see some people say that they can't do the poll questions. I'm going to pause for a second. There we go. And then also change this. And then hopefully you all can see the presentation. All right, can you all see the presentation now? Okay, perfect. Awesome. Okay, so then we're also going to just spend some time talking through both of our schools, and we'll also give some context today just to kind of talk about ways that we've seen programs done differently. I myself came from a smaller charter school, so I can also kind of talk through some of the things that we've done at those locations that are different from now being at a bigger school and how I had to make some adjustments, especially for some of us who are at schools that have, a little bit less, resources when it comes to trying to reach as many students as possible. So I think I'm going to give a couple more minutes just in case people want to go ahead and finish the poll, and then we'll share the poll responses before we move on.
Ebonee, do you want us to maybe answer the poll questions as we kind of wait for just a second?
Sure.
Kind of give a little feedback from us?
Yes. So as I mentioned, I am at Marietta High School, which is right outside of Metro Atlanta. I currently have approximately 270 students on my caseload. We'll talk about what our schools look like. And then I would say that right now, how do I feel about our program? I would before have said program, what program? But I am now saying we're rocking the college counseling program. For what works for us, I think that we're doing a really good job with what resources we have and the availability of students and things like that we have at Marietta. Christy?
Yes, I am from Georgia also, right outside of Athens, Georgia, located in Bogart, Georgia. Happy to be here today. If you don't see your state listed, we just did the SACAC region. Feel free to plug where you wish you lived if you lived in the SACAC region and give credit to that area. The Caribbean would be where I would plug as my second choice if Georgia was not where I was at. We currently have a little under 300, a little under 400 students on our caseload. We were close to 500 when Ebonee and I submitted this proposal last year, but we have gotten a counselor in between. So happy to report that I'm in the 251 to 500 range now. And I would say we are in the middle of, we've got an outline, but we're working to implement some missing pieces to make it a comprehensive program. So we want to kind of go over our poll results. It looks like majority of you have had time to vote, and we want to kind of talk through that.
All right, nice. So we have a good number of people that are representing us from the state of Georgia, a good number from Mississippi, which is awesome, Florida, Tennessee, great. Again, I think if we were answering where we would like to be, we would all be like Christy, and the Caribbean number would be way higher. Number of students on your caseload. Okay, this is great. So we have about half of the attendees are those who have 250 to 500. So good, you're all in the right place. And then thinking about those of us who wish our number was a little bit lower, but we do have a good number of people who have a little bit over 500. That's our second or third largest, and then those who have 100 or less, which is also great. And I think that just to kind of say, even though the name of the presentation is 500 to 1, is this real counseling? I do think that those of you who have smaller caseloads will definitely still benefit from some of the content that we are going to present today. And then it looks like there's a good number of us who are kind of in the middle, who have an outline, but definitely would like to get some more pieces that would help them with implementation and then also growing their program as well. For those of you that are in the program, what program? Trust me, I've been there. The last 3 positions that I have held at schools have all been at places where there was no program. So I can definitely kind of talk to the idea of starting a college counseling program and what that looks like either in a public school, a smaller school, also again at a CBO. So we can definitely talk about all of those as well. So this is really good. Okay, awesome. Let's see. So I'm going to start by just kind of talking a little bit about Marietta. So Marietta High School has currently about 25, I think we're at like 2572 students. That number is ever changing because we do have a transient community. This school is broken down mostly Hispanic students and African-American students. We are also a school, again, like I said, that's very transient. So we have a lot of undocumented students in our population as well. The way our school is broken down is we have 7 school counselors, which are the social, emotional, and academic counselors. So they handle anything as it pertains to schedules, obviously as it pertains to any social, emotional needs that students have, any academic needs, the school counselors handle those. And then myself and my colleague are the only college advisors at the school. I also serve as a scholarship coordinator at our school. And so our counselors do not handle anything as it pertains to college, either the counseling piece, processing piece. We kind of split the duties when it comes to transcripts and things like that. But as it pertains to like the one-on-one conversations and things like that with the students, myself and my colleague are the only ones who handle all 2,500 students in the school. Our school has what we call a MAPS and a PLC campus, which means we have an alternative school on our campus. We have a night school on our, so it's not technically on our campus, but an extension of our campus. There's a night school program at our extension campus, and then also just some alternative education pieces that happen at that campus as well. The Student Life Center is basically a support system for our students. So there's some therapy that happens down there. There's a food pantry, a clothing pantry. Basically, they help to serve the students outside of their academic needs. So again, if we have students who are homeless or students who are parents or students who are just kind of going through life changes, our Student Life Center kind of steps in and kind of help out the counseling department as well as the school with that. And then we are an IB school as well. So we do IB diplomas and certificates through Marietta. The other things that I mentioned, so again, we're a transient community, so that number always fluctuates. We're a very diverse community, so there are 23 plus languages spoken in our school. So a lot of our programs do have to happen with a translator. We also try as much as possible to provide options for languages and things to be presented in print. in Portuguese usually and in Spanish first. But again, like I said, there's 23 plus languages spoken. So we try to do as much as we can to reach as many families as possible. And then our school has a rich tradition, which sometimes is a blessing and sometimes is a curse. It comes with a lot of, oh, we've never done this before. Oh, we used to always do this. Oh, this is how we would like to see it done, because when my great grandfather went to Marietta, that's how they did it. So again, there's a couple of things that are, pluses, and then there's some minuses when it comes to operating in that tradition.
And I feel like North Oconee is vastly different than Marietta High School. When I started working at North 16 years ago, it was only the second year it had been open, so it is a younger school, and I've been blessed to be a part of that since the year after it opened its doors. We currently have around 1,450 students. We were very small in the beginning, so definitely did not have a program at all, and have tried to develop as the student body has developed. Our demographics are listed. We currently have around 1,450, as I said, and we have 4 school counselors. We do not have any other support staff, and as a school counselor, we do handle the social emotional piece as well as the college counseling piece. And I would say our student body is interesting in many ways, as we are a rural fringe community is the way the government has us slated. And so for many years, Oconee was very rural, and there's been a lot of development as Atlanta has spread, and those communities are moving further and further out. We are starting to see some growth of that. And so we have some dynamics of a very rural, very similar to what Ebonee was speaking to. There is a strong tradition in Oconee, and now we have a lot of people that have moved in. And so that has, and we are the newer part of the district, so that has been interesting to see the dynamics play out of people that have been here with people that are transitioning to Oconee County schools as well, and to the community. We do offer a lot of different programs, but we are a traditional public high school. So we do offer the AP program. We offer around 27 APs. For our students, we have a program that we get to utilize with the University of Georgia, and it's called the Young Dogs program, where a small portion of our students compete for a spot to go do research at UGA. And that is something that has gotten to be really competitive, and our students have really reaped a lot of benefit from being able to participate in that. We also have some Jam Up, CTAE, and work-based learning programs that really do some things outside the box. At a school I worked at before, we also had those programs, but the faculty that we have and the connections that they're making with people in the community have really elevated those programs to another level. We are a very strong academic high school with a 98.2% graduation rate. I've included our school profile so you can see our college going culture. That's definitely a strength within our school, and a identity within our school is the college piece. And definitely something that has made us up our game is that that's our population. That's what they're interested in and where we spend a lot of our time. Okay.
Awesome. So I'm going to preface the next part of our presentation by saying we're going to talk a little bit about some of the programs that we all do. And at the end of this presentation, there's a link for a resources folder, which is a Google Drive. And there's a link to some samples to some of the things that we're going to talk about, like the school profile that Christy just mentioned. We both put our profiles in this resources folder. So when you all get a copy of the presentation, just know that there is a link at the very end that you all can access that will then also give you some of these samples to the programs. So for Marietta, what I will say is that we are a Navient school. I can say that for this year. Next year, we are also moving to add SCORE as well as we transition from Navient to SCORE. For those who are not familiar, Navient is a database tool that you can use to actually process and manage your entire application process with your demographic. And so we technically use Navient mainly for our juniors and our seniors to process their applications, build college lists, send out documentation, et cetera, et cetera. We also host about typically 130 plus college visits in the fall, and we utilize rep visits for that as well, typically through Naviance, to kind of manage the entire college visit process. In the spring, we do not host any college visits, and I'm speaking outside of even a COVID year. In the spring, we do more mini camp or mini college fairs, and then we do some more group presentations as opposed to individual college visits. Those all happen in the fall. We do meet with juniors individually. We start meeting with our juniors in December of their junior year. And then seniors, we meet all throughout the year. We try to dedicate the beginning of the fall all the way to December just to the seniors, just because, again, there's so many of them, there's only 2 of us. And so we do try to make sure that we spend that dedicated time with the seniors from August basically until December. And then we meet with juniors, like I said, the last 2 weeks or so before we go on a winter break. And then in the spring, we meet with both juniors and seniors, just depending on what the needs are of the seniors still. But we are available to meet with them individually. I will tell you, I met with some seniors last week who are just getting started. So again, just because of our population, we continue to meet with seniors throughout the year. We do large group presentations for 9th and 10th graders. And that is because, again, because we have so many students, we know that they're hungry for information. For most of our students, they know that we are there for them. And so we do some programming specifically for 9th grade and 10th grade, like a college kickoff. We do some individual programs for each grade level as the fall kind of happens. And then a little bit in the spring, we also do based on the grade level. But if we do have families who are like, how do I get engaged with the college advising office as a 9th grader? We usually push them to some of our larger group presentations. We also do presentations to classrooms. And so those also happen, or advisement, if we can utilize advisement. We try to get in front of the 9th and 10th graders as much as possible whenever we can, outside of what we're doing with the juniors and the seniors. We do have about, probably that number is closer to like 17 programs for juniors and seniors if we're talking the entire school year. And so when you get the resources folder, you'll see there's a link to our program calendar for the year, and we're kind of hitting the ground running come the beginning of August all the way through probably until February. And then we probably only have a few programs that happen in March and April as large group presentations. And then the last thing I'll say about our program specifically is that we have a very large social media presence. We push everything out on Instagram. We have a Facebook page as well, but that's usually just for the parents. But we have a Snapchat, a Twitter, and an Instagram, and we highlight all of our programs. We do all of our signups. Everything is done through social media as well. And that has helped us tremendously just because of the engagement from the students. And so it also gives us a great accountability so that we can tell students, well, this is posted on social media. This is where you can get a lot of the information, in addition to going to our website, in addition to the emails we send out, in addition to the text that we send out.
I'll be honest, when Ebonee and I started gathering information and getting ready to present on this, my heart just started beating, thinking, oh my stars, she does all this stuff and we are not quite there. But then I had to think about Space and Grace. I mean, she has a very different role within her school than I have within mine in many ways. And so I do want to mention that the collaboration piece is really one of the things that I think we hope our presentation brings to, is that there are great resources that you can have within your school, but also realizing that there's so many other people doing really cool things that you can maybe tap into or gain resources from them. And so I do want to mention that kind of before we get started, because when Ebonee was talking, I was just thinking about all of the programming that they have in place and how awesome that is, and the time that it took to develop those. And so I just want to start with that. So as you hear mine and think, oh my goodness, she's not doing near the volume, just to see we're at different places too. And Ms. Ebonee, do you mind hitting that to present? I need to see it bigger. My older eyes can't quite see in the smaller. So we are a SCORE school. We just started working on that. We've rolled that out. I think we're in our second year of rollout. And I have to say, we were not a Naviance school. And so I had not had any experience with that, but I have been super impressed with SCORE. Their customer service is phenomenal. They have responded to questions immediately that I've had. So that has definitely been a great experience for me as a first timer with that. They've been very user friendly and first timer friendly. So we are going to use that to track where our graduates go. We use that to track where our students are interested, to push out information. So really we're excited about that becoming our one-stop shop, hopefully for students to find college information, to keep their resume, and for our teachers to be able to see things in one location. What we were having is students were emailing us their resumes, and then they were also sending us links to fill out application or counselor portals, for their application. So we were getting Common App, we were getting, specific university forms, and then their resumes were in a different place. So particularly as our caseloads were much larger at one time, it was a lot to keep up with, and we were having a struggle with that. So SCORE is really a way for us to unify that, which has been really helpful. We also implemented rep visits a few years back and have really seen an increase in our number of visits for the students here at North. As I said, we were kind of rural, and so without being in a big city, there were I think some hard times for people to know where we were or who we were. And so rep visits, I feel like, kind of puts our name out there and attracts people to us. I'll never forget, I was talking to our secretary about moving to rep visits, and she was like, well, that loses the personal touch. They won't get to talk to somebody about coming. And after we shared that college reps really are looking to be shorter and sweeter in setting up their visits, I think she realized that the personal touch piece is what they need when they get to our school, not necessarily in setting up the time to be there. So I definitely recommend, if you're not using a portal like that, Rep Visits is free. And SCORE also has a college visit scheduling system within their platform as well. So definitely check those out, because we've seen an increase in diversity in our rep visits, as well as the volume as a whole. And so definitely want to give a plug there. We also meet with our students as juniors and seniors. We host individual meetings with them. And if their parents would like to come, we invite them to come as well, so that we can talk about their personal plan and path. We hold those typically in the spring of their junior year, and then we turn around and meet with those individually in their senior year. We do bulk meetings for our other sessions for the underclassmen to get them kind of ready. And so that is our individual time to focus on the juniors and the seniors. So we do that College 101 night in the fall, and that is for all grade levels to attend. Similar to what Ebonee said, we do have a counseling blog, and we have Instagram and Twitter. We put anything and everything that comes through our office on our counseling blog. And I'll be honest, our parents tend to read that, and our teachers. And then our social media is aimed more towards our students. I also follow a lot of social media. So like I will tell them myself and share that a lot of times I will text Brandy or Ebonee and say, how did your session go? And they're like, how did you even know we had that? I'm like, because I follow you on social media. And so I follow a lot of other schools that are doing a lot of really interesting and engaging things, and then try to see how that works and emulate that. So social media is a great way for you to get information out to your students, but also to brainstorm about ways that you might want to make your programming a little different.
Awesome. I want to, again, I put it in the chat, but I do want to apologize for the technical difficulties trying to get the PowerPoint up. I did see a couple questions about the visits. And so I know that we're going to talk about those kind of towards the end as well. But I did want to make sure that I addressed some of the things that we're doing. And so we talked a little bit about some of the specific events. At Marietta, we do a senior college boot camp. It's usually the beginning of the school year, typically like the first week or so of August. And it's a full day, well, about a half a day program. It's from like 9 until 2, where we bring the seniors and their parents in. They go through 2 different tracks. They talk about their essay writing. We introduce them to Navient so they understand how to use it. Again, as a senior, talking about how to sign up for college visits. We explain to them how to request letters of recommendation. We go through an organization piece. So we tell them how they should get organized for this process. And so we kind of just spend the entire morning / beginning of the afternoon kind of getting them prepared for their senior year. We also do a FAFSA night in October, right after the FAFSA opens, which typically kind of coincides with our fall break. So we go on fall break and we usually come back, and that Monday is when we do a FAFSA night to just kind of talk about financial aid. We go through all the nuts and bolts of what you need to know about FAFSA. And then we do 2 help sessions. And so we have an evening, and then we have a Saturday where parents can come and actually work on their FAFSA and they get help. We invite the Georgia Student Finance Commission to kind of come help us with that as well. And they talk about all of the pieces that you need to know with that. We do the parent nights, as I said, by grade level. So we do one for each grade level at the beginning of the school year. And it kind of just talks about what programs and what opportunities are available to your student based on their grade. And then again, for juniors and seniors, we do a whole nother night for seniors and a whole nother night for juniors to kind of talk about what their process looks like specifically. And that's in addition to, again, the college kickoffs, the HBCU night, and all of the other programs that we do based on grade level throughout the year. And then we also do a college career and military signing day. And that looks like a ceremony. It's usually like a little bit more informal. It's not like an awards presentation, but it's more like, think pep rally meets assembly type of thing. It's to celebrate our students before they graduate, regardless of what their post-graduation plans are. We highlight those that are going to 2-year and 4-year institutions, but we also highlight those who are choosing the military as their career option. And then, as Christy said, we also have a work-based learning program. So we also highlight the students who have been offered jobs or other career options, internships, co-ops, things like that post-graduation. And so that's something that we typically do in May to kind of highlight what our students are going to do after they graduate.
And so we do some things very similarly, but what we did start recently and was really, I think, a game changer for us is we do now a teacher letter of recommendation training session. And I have shared our PowerPoint that we got actually from Drew Charter School, was gracious and sent us theirs after I saw that they did one. And so we have kind of tweaked that to be ours. But one of the reasons why I feel like that is one of the big game changers for us and what we really lead the year with is we found that a lot of our teachers were saying what we were saying as a counselor. They were talking big picture about the student in the school and sharing their activities. And we didn't realize that until some of the teachers were sharing letters with us to ask for feedback and notice that their letter was actually hitting what we covered as a counselor for how the student fit in among the class versus how the student fit in their classroom and their academic performance or interaction in the classroom. And so I feel like now our teachers know better what they're supposed to cover. And I think there's some relief for them. I think they thought they had to know all those things about a student. And so for them to now know that they can focus on their little world and their interaction with the student in the classroom, I think that's really been a big difference for us. So that's something newer that we've put in place. And I think our faculty have found it really helpful. So definitely want to plug that. And then we host our College 101 night, which again is our time to kick things off in the fall. I think it also does a good job. I saw some questions about our junior and senior meetings. I think that it really does a good job too of exciting our seniors and their parents to schedule their senior meetings. We host that through Acuity. We have a Acuity portal that parents can sign up for. And we did have a lot of people that scheduled during the school day, but there have been times that I come in later or come in early due to parents that have to work, or as somebody mentioned, transportation with students, or a lot of our students are engaged after school in activities or work, and so they can't stay. And also I'll say this year, which has opened up and been interesting, is letting parents Zoom in or do those through Google Meets, because that way they don't have to take off work to come, but they still can hear the content that we're providing with students. I do think that parent engagement has been a real blessing for us, that our parents want to be involved and want to know, because then we're all on the same page, versus sometimes when the parents don't come, students share certain things that they're wanting to pursue or do. And then parents, I think, feel left out, or either I'm the one that's left out because they're having another conversation at home that I don't know anything about. So I definitely do try to work around as much as possible to have parent engagement. And so we do those, typically open those up in August once the school year kind of settles, because we do scheduling and schedule changes. And so there's, a busy season for us right when school kicks off and new enrollments. And so I would say maybe the end of August is when we open up our calendar within Acuity and begin scheduling senior meetings. And that usually lasts until December. And we open our calendar up for them to be able to see what's open, and they schedule it around their time frame that works best for them or a parent. So that College 101 night, I think, kind of kicks that off for us, but also gets our other students and parents a little more knowledgeable about information. And it's just a broad overview. We then follow up with our financial aid night that we host with our sister high school in the district, to get more participation. And we host that with Georgia Student Finance Commission. They come in and we rotate schools of where that's located. And so we have that available. Typically, we've done that like October the 1st. So as soon as the FAFSA's open, we try to host that event so that our parents can hop on and get started even thinking about tackling the FAFSA. And then we have parent nights based on grade level at the beginning of the school year. And again, that's our broad overview of just touching what it takes to graduate. But we also plug in conversations about the college process of SAT and ACT, and maybe bringing up some terminology that they may not be as familiar with, test optional or early action, those kind of things, just so they can become more familiar with that. And then we do lunch and learn sessions during that peak application season. We were finding that we were answering a lot of one-on-one questions about things, and due to our caseload size, it just was not feasible. So we host lunch and learn sessions. So during every lunch, the kids can come and listen. I've shared those in the resource link that we'll see on the next slide, but it really just covers like how to organize, particularly if kids are applying to more than one school. How do they organize their deadlines, what they need to submit, what do they need to have in, and what portal, are they using the Common App? Are they applying strictly through the school? It gets overwhelming for them, particularly when they're not as well versed in how to do that. And so we host an organization. We do one on how to ask for letters of recommendation, just things that we, again, felt like we were getting hit with a lot, and trying to make that a one-stop shop to answer all those questions at one time. And then we also host one because a large chunk of our seniors will apply to UGA. We do a session just on applying to Georgia, and then we have a chunk that apply to Georgia Tech. And so we do a lunch and learn on the specifics of the Georgia Tech application as well. And then we have one for the Common App, the ins and outs of that. And we found that to be really helpful. And if students couldn't attend, we recorded it and we would email it to them so they would have access to that. And then another thing that I'm really excited about that we got to do this year was a collaboration for HBCU night. We do not have a lot of HBCUs that come to our school. Again, we're very rural and we don't have a lot of students of color. And so that's not necessarily an initiative for some HBCU colleges to make the trek out here for a group that they may not get a lot of yield from, which is totally understandable. But we also want to have that kind of exposure for our students. And so Ebonee was coordinating with Drew Charter School and then Woodward Academy, and they were hosting an HBCU night and were very gracious to include us in that. And so our students were able to virtually tune in to that. And it was a really good experience. I got feedback from several of our students that they learned a lot and had exposure to schools that they had not been familiar with before. So I think that was definitely a good experience for us, and something that we hope we can continue to expose our students through, whether it's, a virtual event like this, or maybe trying to initiate something more in person closer to us. And we also have a senior celebration day, which is where we recognize all of our seniors. We have that typically on May 1st, but that's falling on a Saturday this year. So we're doing that on April the 30th, and we're going to have our seniors wear their shirts of where they're going, whether that's to work. We've had kids make their own shirts of saying, where they're going to work, or go ahead and purchase one from their employer. or, where they're going into the military, they show their support for their branch that they're entering, and then the colleges and universities that they'll be attending. And then we promote that out through Twitter and our social media. And so we definitely want to highlight all of our students and what they're looking into. And I'll be honest, that's when we get the most hits on our social media. I don't know if other schools feel that way, but that's the one time that students definitely do tune in, is to see that. So it's definitely a way for us to engage with our students. So I think that we definitely are a work in progress, but I'm excited about how far we've come and definitely looking forward to seeing us grow our program.
Okay, so for the last 10 minutes, I do want to kind of go through and revisit some of the questions in the Q&A box. I've put our contact information up on the screen just in case you immediately feel like you may want to reach out, but I did answer the questions in the Q&A box about whether or not the presentation will be available after today. The session is being recorded and the presentation will be made available through SACAC after today. And again, here at the bottom of this contact page is a link to the resources folder that we keep referencing. And yes, a lot of the programs that we talked about, the flyers, the layouts, outlines, the PowerPoint presentations are in there as well. We do not mind if you all, take those and make them your own and use whatever you need to. And then definitely we want to be made available for any questions that you all have about any of the resources that you see. So I'm going to kind of go back. I know there were questions about the individual meetings, and our process is very similar to what Christy outlined. We also use Acuity. I've also worked in schools where we've used Calendly as well, or the Google Calendar. So it just kind of depends on what's available, or what's easiest for your school. But Acuity is really great. If you're not familiar with Acuity, you basically kind of go in there. It's just like most of the other calendar options. You set what days and times you want to be made available. For us, we have a calendar for my colleague Brandy and then one for myself. And so when we link that calendar onto our website, and so if they are under my caseload, because we're divided by alphabet, they will click on the link under my name and it takes them to my calendar, or they can click on the one under Brandy's name and it'll take them to Brandy's calendar. We meet with seniors and their families or seniors individually. For the juniors, we meet with them individually first. And so they have to fill out a questionnaire that we have available in Naviance. Once they fill that out and we meet with the juniors, then they can also schedule a family meeting as well. We advertise our meetings in those grade level meetings at the beginning of the year. So we let them know when they can start booking appointments. We also kind of blast it out through social media. It's kind of a big thing in August to kind of say, hey, appointments start on August 15th or August 30th, whatever day we choose to start them for the school year. And trust me, there's no problems with the appointments filling up. Again, just because there's also just the two of us. I did see a question about meeting after school. We typically do have 1 or 2 meetings after school, but because transportation is a problem for many students, they try to book the ones right before. We have an after school bus at our school as well. And so that doesn't leave until school gets out at 2:30. That bus doesn't typically leave until 4:15, I think. And so when we are in person, those appointments are kind of used for those students, but a lot of our students actually also drive. And so they don't have problem with that. We also are available for those who need to. If they need to meet during their lunch, then we will meet with them during their lunch period. And we also have an option. A lot of our students, when they get to their senior year, may have a free block or they may have a work-based learning block, and they will meet with us during those blocks as well. And so we kind of communicate all of that to them at the beginning of the school year. Christy, did you have anything you wanted to add about setting appointments?
I wanted to mention 2 things. So because we do handle social emotional, there are times that kids and parents will have appointments with us and we have to reschedule, just because a student with mental health sometimes has to take the priority depending on how severe that mental health situation is. And so our population is aware of that. I think there is definitely sometimes that there's some frustration, but they also understand that that piece is definitely our priority. We also have talked about altering to where maybe we block out chunks of times where a counselor is available. So maybe even if it was not my student, if there is a crisis that comes up, I am the counselor that's kind of on call and handle those and don't schedule junior or senior meetings during that time. We meet with our juniors in the spring, and the beauty of that is that that's during registration. And so they all want to talk about what they're signing up for and what that looks like. So we use that time and really block out times to just meet with juniors and have their junior meetings. And that's when they really want to see us, because they want to talk about their schedule. So we try to use timing of the year to promote those meetings as well. And we do similar things. We email the parents, letting them know that we're ready to start having the meetings. We email the students, we put it on social media, we put it on our counseling blog, we make announcements. So we try to, shout it from the rooftops that we're ready to do that. But we have students that don't schedule a meeting. And if they don't schedule a meeting, we keep up with who we've not seen, and we pull those kids individually. Because a lot of times those are the kids that need us the most. And so we don't want to leave a student that never gets met with. We meet with 100% of our students. And so if a student does not schedule a meeting with us, then we do schedule a time to touch base with them and ask them about their plan and try to make, an idea of what they want to do after high school with them. So that's definitely something that we see often, is the kids that just don't come up. So we definitely try to do that.
I also saw a question, Christy, specifically, that says, can you go back over how you meet with students individually while managing others? I think you just talked about that. But then also it says, do you do all of them or only those that are requested to meet?
We do them all. And I tell them, there are 2 times you're forced to meet with me throughout your high school years, and that'll be your junior meeting and your senior meeting. And that's just because, again, we want to make sure that nobody falls through the crack and that everybody's had a chance to touch base, to talk about their plans. Because sometimes just they don't even know what to say, so they don't come. And we don't want that to be the reason why they don't know about options and opportunities. I did want to mention, Ebonee, somebody asked specifically about us not using SCORE as their visit system. Mm-hmm. We might go to that eventually. I'll just be honest. With everything that we were pivoting on this last year and a half, we just didn't quite feel like we could switch from rep visits to SCORE, because we were still learning so much with SCORE. So we might eventually go to SCORE just to make it easier for us. But right now we do use both of those systems, just because we were a little scared to transition over to SCORE and not have a full understanding of what that would look like. Plus, we felt like we had already established a system with our reps, and we didn't want to add a new pivot for them to meet with us if they went to rep visits and we weren't there anymore. And so we just have left it for now, but there is a possibility we might transition to SCORE. There was nothing wrong with them. We just didn't go to that. And also there was a question about us sharing with students who's coming to visit. We do blast that to their email. We put it on social media. We put it on the blog. We try to make sure parents know why it's important for kids to come. So we announce that to anybody, and any of our grade levels can come. We don't limit that to a particular grade level. So we have freshmen that come, and we open that up to anybody. We don't limit who can attend a visit or not.
And at Marietta, we have, so college visits are only for juniors and seniors to come out of class. And so if they are coming to a college visit, again, I create a list, and there's a sample in the resource folder of like an advertisement flyer of which schools are coming every week. And that goes out in our weekly newsletter for the school. So the school sends out a weekly newsletter of what's happening every Sunday. It gets advertised there. It also, as Christy said, it goes out in an email. We post it all over social media. When we are back in regular times, we also have something that is posted in the school every day that also shows which college visits are coming up. And then it reminds them also to sign up as well. Really quickly, because I think we only have like 2 minutes left, I will say, I think someone asked the question about sharing the resources. So I did share that in the chat. So that is there. The questionnaire that's in Naviance, I will download a copy of the questionnaire that we use for our juniors, and I will put that into the resources folder. So if you're in the resources folder today, come back again maybe in 2 days, and it'll probably be in there by then. Christy, I don't know if you want to answer this, but it says, do you have a set agenda for junior and senior meetings? I'll say for us, the junior meeting is that questionnaire. So we just kind of go over what is it that you're looking to do come senior year. We talk about things that they should be doing between the time of their appointment and they come back in the fall. And then the senior meetings, there's also a senior questionnaire, and it's just so that we can kind of be updated on anything that's changed, what applications they're looking to do. And we let the students actually guide that conversation so that they can tell us what they want help with. So it doesn't matter for us to kind of go in with an agenda for the seniors, because every senior is different. Some of them really just want to know, hey, what do I need to do to apply to, Vanderbilt, or what do I need to do to be prepared for the SAT or whatever. So we let the seniors kind of guide that conversation.
Yeah, and I know we're running short on time, so I want to give a plug. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. Ebonee and I are both willing to talk through things. We want to learn from you guys as much as if you have questions for us. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. That's why we put our info on there. We definitely want to continue conversations. I can share our process too for what we do with juniors and seniors, the checklist that we have, and I can put that in the resource as well this afternoon.
So I think we should probably just kind of wrap up. For the social media, I will tell you, I don't know, Christy, if you know yours off the top of your head, but for us, I will say ours is just Marietta High School College Advising on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. And so if you just kind of type in Marietta High School College Advising, it'll pop up there.
And we are NOHS Counseling on Instagram, and I think that's our Twitter too. I'm checking to make sure, but yeah, I think it is. So NOHS Counseling is both of ours.
Well, thank you all for coming. We hope that you all have a great conference, and definitely reach out to us with the contact information that's here. But as I mentioned before, they will definitely be sending out the PowerPoint, which also has the link to the resources folder as well. But me and Christy are definitely willing to always sit and talk about anything that you all need to talk about. If you want us to share more resources or to kind of talk through programming, we've done that for each other. And so we're definitely willing to do that for anybody that's here as well. Thank you, guys.